Good morning and welcome to Unity Community Church. I'm Elsie Huebner, the spiritual leader here, and welcome on this very first Sunday in May. We're very grateful as always to Stuart Walker, who is doing the filming and all the production of this video and the videos that we've done before. I want to let you know that our board of directors will be meeting to discuss plans for the church while we are all apart and see what we can do until we can get back together again. And we'll stay in touch with you the best way we can by email, Facebook post, website, by phone, and please feel free to phone me or any of the board directors if you have a concern or a suggestion or a question. And more importantly, I want to thank all of you for blessing our beloved church with your endless prayers. They're the most important, and your continued financial support so that we can pay our bills. Checks can be mailed safely to us at 1315 Bayshore Boulevard, Dunedin, Florida 34698. We begin now with our meditation. Let's begin by relaxing our bodies and our minds as we enter into this time of quiet and prayer and peacefulness. Take a few deep breaths and allow any concerns that you've brought with you today to just float away like white clouds on a blue sky. Today, we'll be considering the power of our words, both our silent words and our spoken words. Imagine your word as a seed with the potential to produce an entire field or forest of its own kind. Some seeds will create a beautiful field of flowers or an enchanted forest of trees. Others will create a field of weeds. It is our intention today to plant seeds of love and joy and peace for ourselves and all humankind. Picture in your mind's eye a tiny little seed that you have placed in the palm of your hand. Let it represent your word. Think for a moment what crops that you would like to harvest by your seed word. Will your crop be love, peace, harmony, good relationships? What crop would you like to see manifesting in your life? What crop? Your seed words have magical powers. You can create anything you want with them. And your words can inspire others to create a happier life for themselves. In the silence now, with an open heart, invite words to come into your mind that you will use to create the kind of life that you desire. In silence. Please join me in prayer now. Dear Holy Spirit, I ask that you guide the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart to create only good. Help me learn how to increase my happiness and personal freedom with impeccable words. I promise to speak with integrity, to always tell the truth, and to choose my words very, very carefully. I will take action every day to keep my word impeccable. I will continue working on this until the habit is firmly established in my consciousness. Thank you, dear Heavenly Father, in the name and power of the living Christ. And now, while we're still in this powerful consciousness, let's bless ourselves and each other and the whole world with our unity prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And we are so grateful. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. Amen. And now it's time for our daily word reading, which will be presented by Charlene Hale.
Hello, this is the Daily Word for May 3rd, 2020. I contribute to the peace of the world. When I learn conflict in my community or in the world, my response may be frustration, sadness, or anger. If I have those feelings, I remember that I am more than merely human. I am a living expression of God, heir to all that God is. I use my divine faculties of wisdom, understanding, love, to create the abiding peace that is my birthright. Centered in divine peace, I realize that every person is as much an expression of God as I am. As differences dissolve in any way that transcends human understanding, I come to know the oneness with all the world's people. I let this realization shape my response to every person and every situation. In an awareness of my oneness with all people, my thoughts, words, actions contribute to the peace in the world. From Scripture, the glory that you have given me, I have given them, so that they may be one, as we are one. From the Gospel of John, chapter 17, verse 22. Thank you.
The 4 agreements. Did you ever notice how the universe just keeps tapping you on the shoulder when it's trying to teach you something new? Happens to me all the time, or quite often anyway. Messages just seem to come from every possible angle. When the book, The 4 Agreements, first came out in 1997, written by Don Miguel Ruiz, I said to myself, I gotta get that book, but I didn't get it. Then I went to the Southeast Unity Conference, and one of the presenters gave a workshop on that very subject, and I attended, and I said to myself, I've got to get that book, but I didn't get it. Then the book, seemingly all by itself, came to me. It showed up at the church with a note inside. Here's what it said: pay it forward to all who read this book. May you be thrice blessed. Pass this book on to 3 people, and all will soon know the key to peace on earth. Shortly thereafter, the companion book of the 4 Agreements showed up at the church in the same way. I never learned where they came from. Unity magazine, right after that, featured the author, Don Miguel Ruiz, and his son in an issue, I think it was back in September of 2014. So finally I said, okay, I guess I better study this material. And shortly thereafter, I gave 4 Sunday lessons on the 4 Agreements. Today, and for the next 3 Sundays, we're going to be exploring the 4 Agreements again. But first, let's begin with a little history. Thousands of years ago, there was a pre-Columbian civilization called the Toltec. They were known throughout southern Mexico as men and women of knowledge. They were a society of scientists and artists, and they had a mission to explore and preserve spiritual knowledge and practice of their ancestors. They came together as masters and students in the ancient city of the pyramids just outside Mexico City, known as a place where man becomes God. Through their studies and practices, the Toltec developed what they called the Four Agreements. They believed that these agreements, if taken into the consciousness of people, and people would actually follow them, they would have joyful, peaceful lives. All was going very well until the Europeans conquered the people of Mexico. This, along with the misuse of some of the Toltec apprentices, misusing their personal power, it made it necessary to hide the knowledge from those who were not prepared to use it, who might intentionally misuse it for personal gain. Excuse me. The wise Toltec masters determined that civilization had not yet reached the level of consciousness where people could accept the teachings with any degree of seriousness. So they kept the knowledge secret for a long time, like 3,000 years. Then they passed it down through one specific tribe, and they were waiting until someone would be given a sign that it's time to share it. Don Miguel Ruiz is the Toltec descendant who came to share the secret of the Four Agreements. He is a Toltec descendant of his mother, who was a healer, his grandfather, who was a shaman, and certainly everybody thought that he was going to continue in that same practice, follow their path. But he became a medical doctor instead. He said that his work as a surgeon was where he witnessed how every organ in our body is trying to maintain equilibrium with the totality of the body. He said that he could see, just as the human body has many organs working together for the good of the whole body, the earth is really a living being as well. And its organs include everything that exists, including all of us. And that we were created to live in a spirit of harmony and cooperation. Then he realized that it was his mission in life to teach the people the spiritual wisdom of the Toltec, and he began his work. So what are the Four Agreements? Number 1, be impeccable with your word, which is the one we'll be talking about today. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. And number 4, always do your best. They sound simple enough, don't they? But they are anything but simple. Be impeccable with your word. Language and the meaning of words evolved over the years. And I know we're not always aware that our words have mighty power. If we were, we'd be very, very careful how we speak. Oftentimes we use words we have no idea what they really mean. Let me give you an example. One time I emailed Greg Sanderson about a class that he was going to teach here at the church. And I mentioned to him that I had been under the weather. And then I said, I wonder what that actually means, under the weather. Well, Greg is a researcher, so he looked it up for me. That expression, under the weather, comes from a naval tradition where the captain wrote the names of sick people in a log, and there were different columns in the log. And sometimes there'd be an outbreak of sickness or something, and he didn't have room to keep writing the names in the log for that. So he moved them over and put them in the column of the next one. And that was the column for weather. Thus, those sailors' names appeared under the weather. Now, isn't that interesting? We can remember that if we're ever invited to speak on Jeopardy. Under the weather. The Toltec believed that this first agreement, be impeccable with your word, is the most important one of the 4 agreements. And it's the most difficult one to honor. They say it's so important that with just this first agreement, you'll be able to transcend to the level of existence that Don Miguel Ruiz calls heaven on earth. Don't we want to do that? Of course we do. It is in the use of words that we have the power to create our lives. But we tend to use this vast power sometimes indiscriminately. Your word is a gift that came directly from God. We remember in the Gospel of John where it talks about the creation of the universe, we read, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word is God. It is with the Word that we express our creative power. It is through the Word that you manifest everything. It doesn't matter what language you speak, it's your intent that manifests through the Word. When you dream, when you feel, what you really are will be all manifested through the Word. Think about this. There are no other animals on the planet who can speak. Your word is the most powerful tool that you have as a human being. It is a tool of magic. But it's like a sword that has 2 edges. The word can create a most beautiful dream, or it can destroy everything around you. Depending on how it's used, the word can set you free, or it can enslave you. All the magic you possess is based on your word. It's what the Toltec tell us. And they use the word magic. We might want to use different words. Maybe we'll use creative power. Doesn't matter, it's the same thing. It's all magic. Think about Germany under Adolf Hitler. He was a powerful speaker, and he used the magic of his word to manipulate a whole country of intelligent people, leading them into a world war. He convinced others to commit atrocities and acts of violence, unbelievable. He activated people's fear with his word, and war spread all over the world, and millions of people, their lives were ruined because of Hitler's powerful words. The opposite is also true. Think about Jesus' words. Even after 2,000 plus years, his words are still inspiring people, blessing people, giving them hope, changing lives. The power of the word. I remember when I first came to Unity. You know what impressed me the very most? It was the way the people spoke. They used positive words all the time. And this really made an impression on me in a world that sometimes seems so crass and mean-spirited. Speaking positive words, it's a beautiful thing. The human mind is a fertile field where seeds are continually being planted. Seeds are opinions, ideas, concepts, anything like that we plant that seed, and that's where it will grow. The seed thoughts can come from ourselves, or they actually can come from other people. And it's really important for us to determine what kind of seeds that we're going to take into our fertile mind soil. And prepare ourselves only to receive those seeds of love and compassion and peace. Sometimes words are spoken casually, with good intentions, but they still can bring negative results. A well-known minister who once headed a Unity church with 4,000 members tells about something that happened when she was growing up. She and her sister, when they were little girls. Now, Mary was very smart, always brought home those straight A's. Her sister Debbie, not so much. But their mother really wanted to reinforce what she thought were the good qualities in the girls. So when the girls brought home their report cards, she would pat Mary on the head and say, "You're so smart, Mary." When Debbie came home, she'd say, "Oh, Debbie, you're so pretty." According to Mary, the two of them grew up with these ideas, these seed ideas planted. Mary, the smart one, went to college, got a couple of degrees, got a good job so she could support herself. Debbie, the pretty one, on the other hand, she wasn't worried about going to college. Instead, she worked on her social skills and her appearance in order to land a good husband who would take care of her. Later on, when Mary found her way into spiritual studies, she discovered the power of the Word and the fact that their lives had been shaped in strange ways. She began to remember what her mother had done. She talked it over with Sister Debbie. As soon as they realized that they were in control of their lives, not the picture that the mother had presented to them when they were children, their lives began to change. Mary, who was single, met and married a wonderful man. Debbie already had a wonderful husband and good marriage, talked to her husband, and the two of them agreed that she should go to college. She ended up with not one degree, but two. How many of us go through life without ever realizing that we're working under false limitations? Our minds were and are fertile fields where people planted and plant seeds that are not in our best interest. So what does impeccable mean? Be impeccable with your words. What does impeccable mean? It means without sin. We don't use sin much in Unity, but bear with me on this one. According to Ruiz, a sin is anything you do that goes against yourself. You go against yourself when you judge or blame yourself for anything. When you are impeccable, of course you take responsibility for your actions, of course you do, but you don't judge yourself, you don't blame yourself. Self-rejection is the biggest sin that you can commit, and I think it's what the Catholics call a mortal sin. Being impeccable with your word is the correct use of your energy and your magic. If you make an agreement with yourself to be impeccable with your word, just with that intention, the truth will manifest through you and clean up the emotional poison that exists within you. But making this agreement difficult because we have learned actually to do precisely the opposite. We have learned to lie as a habit of our communications with others. And more importantly, we lie to ourselves as well. When we lie, we're not being impeccable with our word. It's always been important to me to tell the truth, even before I ever heard of the 4 agreements. But in the last few years, I've really been working hard on this one, being truthful all the time, always, to others and to myself. First thing you'll notice when you make this agreement, you will catch yourself when you tell a lie. We all slip up. That's good. You catch yourself. Maybe someone asks you to go somewhere. Go out to lunch with them. You don't want to go. Just what do you say? Oh, make up a lie. Oh, I've got other plans. You could just as easily have said, no, I don't want to, but thank you very much for asking me. Jesus taught this very same lesson. He said, let your yes be yes, and let your no be no. Once you've made this agreement to be impeccable with your words, and you realize that you've lied to someone, maybe it's just a little lie or a big one, intentional or unintentional, you'll go back to that person and tell the truth. Eventually it becomes very difficult to lie, and it's against our spiritual nature to do so. Tell the truth all the time. Another thing, have you ever been around a person who just talks all the time? Sheer torture. Just seems to suck all the energy right out of the room. In fact, that's exactly what's happening. I expect we've all done it at one time or another. We wake up in the morning, we only have so much an allotment of energy to use for that day. But when we go on the endless talking jag, we use up all our energy at one time. So we can't be productive the rest of the day. All those words don't mean a thing. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Say what you mean and mean what you say. We need to make sure our words are an improvement over the silence. Nothing wrong with silence, it's beautiful. So we need to make sure our words are an improvement over the silence. We're not being impeccable with our word when we curse, when we blame, when we find fault, express anger, when we hate, all those negative things. Our words have power to create chaos in our world, and they do. But we can use that same power to create peace and love and joy. Ruiz says that we cast spells on each other with our words. He calls gossip black magic, near impossible to break the spell once it's cast. Gossip can be compared, he says, to a computer virus. It's written in the same language as all the other codes, but with harmful intent. The code is inserted into the program of the computer when you least expect it, and most of the time you're not aware that it's happened. But after this virus has been introduced, your computer stops working right, and then eventually it doesn't work at all. Getting so many conflicting messages all the time, it just can't produce good results. Human gossip works exactly the same way. Once a tale is told about someone, it seems to take on a life of its own, and it can destroy a person's life. I'm sure some of us have been damaged by unkind, untrue words of others. Happens sometime during our life. But if we adopt the first agreement and become impeccable with our word, any emotional poison put on us by others will eventually be cleaned from our mind and from our personal relationships. It will give us immunity from anyone putting a negative spell upon us. When we become impeccable with our word, our mind is no longer fertile ground for words that come from black magic. Instead, it is fertile for the words that come from love. Having low self-esteem is a common problem for people susceptible to negative words. I came upon an exercise that we can use in the week ahead to help us loosen the grip of negative words and thought patterns that come from ourselves and from other people. Remember, our primary relationship is with ourselves. No one else has been with us to live through every experience of our life. We're our one permanent companion, and yet we're often our worst critic. To remind ourselves of our magnificence, we can do this exercise. Okay, now get out a pen and pencil, I'll give you a minute, because we're going to work on this in the week ahead. It's called Things I Like About Myself. Begin by writing down at least 5 things that you like about yourself. Now, this is not the time to be modest. If you're having trouble coming up with a total of 5 things, then you know this exercise is for you. You can benefit from it. And be sure to include more than your physical attributes, because your body is only a part of who you are. If you struggle with what to include on your list, think about your favorite people and what you admire about them, because you probably have some of those same qualities in you. Another way to complete your list is to think about the things that you don't like about yourself, and then find something positive that's part of that. Continue this process for a week, thinking of 5 new things you like about yourself every day, and don't use the same 5 things. And then at the end of the week, get your list out and read it aloud while standing in front of your mirror. Instead of looking for flaws to fix, allow the mirror to reflect your magnificence. You might feel silly standing there reading these wonderful things about yourself, your admirable qualities, but I bet it will bring a smile to your face, just to change the way that you see yourself. Remember, when you feel most resistant to doing this, this is the exercise that can benefit you the most. Because we are constantly looking out at the world instead of looking at ourselves. We don't often see what's magnificent about ourselves that other people do see. When we take the time to see ourselves in a way we see people that we love and admire, we become our best companion and supporter on life's journey. And we're going to be working on agreement number 2 next time. It's don't take anything personally. And in conclusion, in the Toltec tradition, once your word becomes impeccable, it's like waking up from a dream where everyone else is still sleeping. Or imagine you go to a party and you're the only sober person in the room, everyone else is intoxicated. Why even waste your time and your words talking to them? They're going to forget what you say the next day. But you know the power of your word, and that's all you need. You can live in heaven in the middle of thousands of people who are living in hell because you are immune to that hell. Your life will change. You can attain the kingdom of heaven from just this one agreement. So, be impeccable with your word. God bless you.
Just for fun.
I guess I should turn back on.
Yeah. And you should, any questions your audience would like to ask. Here's the first question.
Okay.
The yes, when yes means yes and no means no from Christ. Where did that come from? The Beatitudes?
It came from the Bible. I'll have to look that up for you, and I will, and get back to you, because I am not particularly a Bible scholar, but Jesus definitely said that.
Okay.
Somebody asks you something, for instance, the idea of not wanting to go to lunch with someone. It's hard to say, no, I don't want to go. But you can say that. No, I really don't want to go, but thank you so much for asking. Maybe next time.
Do you have a question? While she's thinking, let me ask one. Okay, go.
Sometimes when I'm talking with someone that maybe the conversation is a little bit stilted, not exactly going very positively or something, sometimes they'll come out and say something to me that puts the hairs up or puts my back up or something, you know. And what I do so that I don't come out and yell at them and say what I really want to is I wait a moment, 10 seconds, whatever, it's short time, and I filter out and make sure that what I'm going to say is more positive, because I let myself calm down from anything that I feel that I'm being bombarded with. If they're saying things that I don't like, I don't want to come back at them with other things that aren't likable. So that's why I pause before I respond. That's the only thing how I cope with some people that say things to me.
So after all that, I still don't know your question. How do you respond when someone gets you upset?
Yeah, that's
okay. Let's go with that. Instead of going through all those machinations and struggles and thinking and not hitting them back, You know, you could just as well say, and we're going to talk about this next week. Don't take anything personally, I think next week. You could just as well say, well, that's very interesting. See you later.
Okay.
One more question.
Okay, the impeccable word. How does that clean out old emotional stuff that you're carrying around, maybe even from childhood or past lives?
I suppose it might, you clear out a lot of what's going on in the day-to-day negativity. Maybe something will come up. I can certainly think of an example of when my sister and I were growing up, and I was like the Mary. I got the good grades. Betty liked to have fun, which is much more important. So when I finished high school at a Catholic girls' school, graduated, Betty came in right behind me. She worked hard. She's passing everything. And the nuns kept getting on her, saying, you need to work harder like your sister Elsie. Can you imagine 2 or 3 years of that? Particularly when you like to have fun. So I think she was in junior year, and she worked hard on this term paper. She had asked me about it, but she did all the work herself. I didn't even review it, but she told me about it, and I knew she did a wonderful job. She took it to class as a nun, who looked at it and said, you didn't do this report. I know your sister Elsie did. She said, that's not true. And the nun gave her an F, and she didn't finish her junior year. She quit school, and later then went on to get her GED. So I think, and looking for that, is very close to my heart. And I'm sure it's close to my sister's heart too. All we can do in bringing up those memories is to forgive those people, for they know not what they do, what terrible damage that they did. So I guess maybe forgiveness is a good thing. How we erase it totally, I don't know. It's part of this story though, for me.
No, thank you.
One more, okay.
You want to do? I think we're done. Well, one more question. When we're in a deep emotional state of anger and we're using negative words, how do we catch ourselves right there and reverse that?
Well, maybe you can't, but remember you're spewing out poison and taking it back in. A lot of people can't, and they get very angry and they have to do that. That's an issue, I guess, every person. Whenever I get angry, which is rare anymore, thank God, it bothers me so much I'll replay that over in my head for weeks. Weeks I'll be thinking, should have done this, should have said that, why did you do that, yeah. It's poison.
Well, let me ask you this. What if you're really deeply angry and enraged about something, but you're angry about being angry? And so instead of spewing out all the negative words, you start spewing out all the positive words right in the middle of it. Will that work?
I think it would be hard to do.
But if you can do it, would
it
it
might
work?
not be being impeccable with your word either. Each person then, in a case like that, really has to go to themselves and work on themselves. And it's part of this journey. And as long as we've got things like that to work on, it's good. That's why we're still here. Once we get to that perfect spot, we'll be ascended. So I think that's a personal thing we have to work on.
Thank you.